Conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, Alex, Del Piero! Sulla compagna di Pogacar, Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium! Buongiorno, come ha detto lei, buongiorno.
Good afternoon, parents, good afternoon, boys and girls. Shut the fuck up!
And here we go.
Here we go indeed, boys and girls. My name is Farhad. I'm the host that loves you most, and I would like to welcome you to a brand new edition of the Turin Giants podcast, number 269. Nice. Did I introduce myself? I'm a little rusty. I'm
sure
Farhad, and I'm joined here by Kevin, Frederick, and our special guest for today is Charlie Rowing, who is joining us from Manchester. I assume they haven't gotten fast connection there yet, so that's why he's going to sound a little underwater. But we're happy he's joining us. Charlie, say hello to Turin Giants podcast listeners, buddy.
Hi guys, hi to all the listeners out there. Very excited to be on the show today, and speaking with all of you guys and maybe answering some questions.
Yeah, this show will be an interesting one. The reason is Charlie is or was for 3 years, from 2019 to 2022, he ran social media for Juve. I mean, I assume he didn't run it, but he was the person. Were you the person typing the messages or the tweets and all of that stuff? First of all, let's see. First of all, let's start. I'm a little excited. Ways to listen to us: Spotify, YouTube, and all of the podcast platforms, as well as follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Turin Giants. Kevin, please say hello.
Hey, Farhad. Great to be here. This is an exciting one. Charlie, just really looking forward to learning more about just your contribution to Juve's social, your perspective on where it is today, and just your general experience working with the team we all love and adore.
Certainly. Frederick is joining us from Belgium. That's his second or third appearance, buddy?
My second. Hi, Farhad. My second.
Second. Love it. He's, as you can see on the video, he's coming straight from the stadium. I don't know why these people filled up Curva Sud for him, but he's there. Charlie, let's begin. We have many questions for you. So from that period, three or whatever years, you were there during the Ronaldo years, which is another interesting point. So you were the man behind the social media. So which accounts were you in charge of?
I mean, first of all, I've got to say, it's a team effort. I can't say like I'm the social media manager, but one of the social media managers. I'm probably, in the last few years, probably the longest serving social media manager at Juve. I mean, 5.5 years is quite a long time.
Oh, wow.
And essentially, like all of the social media channels you see today. So Twitter, or now X, as some people like to call it, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, also the website as well. Am I missing a social media platform? Well, Blue Sky wasn't a thing then, but I'm sure that's going to get added to the list now for those that are still there. But yeah, like a lot of things to do, a lot of responsibilities.
Unbelievable. Let me ask you, have you ever made a mistake that someone was like, hey, and you just, the cold sweat took over? And is there checks and balances where mistakes like that don't happen?
So look, one of the things I prided myself on is I was really like it was really rare for me to make a mistake. I have a very high attention to detail. One of my colleagues, who's a good friend of mine, wouldn't even call him a colleague now, just call him a friend. He even would categorically say Charlie never makes a mistake. So I would say lucky to not make a mistake, because it's a high pressure situation. It's really, really easy to make a mistake on social media nowadays, and you can see that the trouble it can get companies or brands in. So from my side, no, I was very lucky in that aspect, and or some might say attentive, but no mistakes.
So speaking of controversies, let's get the unpleasant
Here we go.
stuff out of the way. I just remembered. I mean, we wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't ask questions that people want to know. The whole
Sure.
the
I know what you're gonna ask.
right, the post with, I mean, it wasn't good fun. We all know it was not a racist intention behind it, but there was a picture of a female Juventus women player making the slanted eyes.
Yeah.
And since the sensibilities in Europe a little different, and I'm guessing they learned that the hard way. Here's your chance to clear the air. Obviously, we understand I was behind it, but that was a interesting lesson to learn for Juventus social team, wasn't it? And tell me how the events, how it went, and I think it was up for about an hour or so until it was taken down. Hey, here's your chance.
Sure. Obviously, have to stress I'm not speaking on behalf of Juventus Football Club here.
course.
What I can say about that incident is that it was a genuine, total innocent mistake. The person that made that mistake doesn't have a single racist bone in their body. They're a good person. And again, as I was saying earlier, anyone can make a mistake on social. They simply looked at it and thought, funny picture, posted it, and didn't even think about the racial connotations. That's how much they don't have any racist bones in their body. My mum, even when I was describing the story to her, she looked at the picture and she said to me right away, like, "Oh, what's wrong with it? It's just a funny picture." And then it was like after sitting and reflecting and realizing, oh, actually, yeah, like this is potentially like it can be taken a certain way. So again, it just shows like that it's really easy to make a mistake, and you do have to be on at all times. And I can tell you this person is really competent at their job. They're a great person. They're a friend of mine, but they just happened to make an unfortunate mistake that got picked up. It got obviously condemned. But that's what I just want to underline, a totally innocent mistake.
Absolutely. No, I mean, we're certainly not suggesting that was anything but a mistake, but we just wanted to kind of get it out of the way. Like I
Yeah.
said, they learned the hard way. Unfortunately, the screenshots is there, so if you people listening
Lives on
want
the
to check
internet
it out.
forever.
What's that? Yeah, I know. If it's on the internet, it's forever. Zach, who's taking a day off today. Shout out to Zach. He wants to know. Let's kind of start from the beginning. How does one, or in your case, how did you acquire the position before it was such a sought after position? Right now, I'm guessing it's whole companies that are taking over social accounts of the big teams. How did you kind of fall into it? And I mean, I'm not suggesting you fell into it. I'm sure there's background, and you did, and you earned that. So how does that happen in the world of everyone being on the internet? How do they choose you to be the guy who runs or like you mentioned, there's a few of you guys. How did you get hooked up with this position?
I'll tell you the truth, Farhad. I did fall into it. It was luck. Back when I applied to the role was in 2016. Social media.
They got him for spilling the secrets. They took him out.
Experience in
Charlie, would you be able to repeat the last couple of sentences? We lost you.
on Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now. You're saying that you
Okay.
kind of did fall into the position.
I'll just yeah. So yeah, back then when I applied in 2016, social media wasn't quite the juggernaut that it is today. I think back then businesses were just starting to realize how powerful it could be. TikTok didn't even exist back then. I was lucky in the sense that I had already built up a little bit of a career in digital marketing, so I kind of understood that world. I also am actually a Juventus fan. My mum already mentioned her once on the show, but I'll mention her again. Shout out to you, mum, if you're listening.
I love it.
She is Italian.
We love moms.
Yeah.
Shout out to my mom too. Hey, let's shout out our moms.
Shout out to all the moms.
Moms are awesome.
Yeah, she is a Juventus football fan. She's the one that got me into football. She absolutely loves Alessandro Del Piero. She won't hear a single bad word against him. So obviously, I was conditioned from a young age to recognize that Del Piero is God.
Hey, we have our own Alessandro Del Piero here for those watching.
Oh, look at that,
Alessandro Del Piero. This is for your mom, by the way.
Nice. So yeah, I was already a Juventus fan. I had that experience in digital marketing. Also, I kept an eye on the rest of City Out. I was very knowledgeable about it. I applied for the role really speculatively. I remember I was sitting in my friend's car in December 2016, not thinking much would come from it. And then they asked me for an interview. I attended an interview, waited a few months, another interview, then maybe another one, and then got given the job. It was a long process, I can tell you that. 6 months when you're a fan, waiting to hear whether or not you might get a dream job or not is, well, it plays on your mind, I'll just say that. And yeah, eventually, I got the offer. I moved to Turin in July of 2017. Stayed there 5.5 years, learned a lot, went on a lot of experiences, and here I am. And I guess the only thing I can say to people is, just trust the process. And yeah, you do need a bit of luck, but again, I think you can make your own luck and fall into the right place at the right time.
I think you guys actually overlapped with Kevin when he lived in Turin, right?
Yeah, Charlie, when did you leave again? When did you leave Torino?
So I left Turin in wait, let me think. March 2022 was when I left Turin.
We overlapped with about 2.5 months. My wife and I moved there January 2022, and we moved back to the U.S. Earlier this summer when we found out we were about to have a second kid and needed to get back closer to family. But we were there for about 2.5 years.
By the way, Kevin, I never got to congratulate you on the podcast on birth of your son. It's a beautiful thing. We had a little shout out for you guys when we found out. So so happy for you. You're similar to us, man. Older girl, younger son. It's a beautiful combination, man. I love it so much. Shout out to Luca.
Thank you so much, and it was great to hear that on I think it was 2 episodes ago. I appreciate the shout out for sure.
Dude, I don't understand how a child who's 3 weeks old is so handsome, but good for you, man. That boy
Appreciate
that boy
it.
is
Yeah,
something
good looking
else.
kid.
Yeah,
See how long it lasts.
So Kevin had the season tickets. He's a diehard. A lot of the content for our Instagram page, which is at Turin Giants, for all those listening. He created a lot of content for us. One of the videos went viral, which was the beautiful angle of the Vlahovic free kick, where we got to talk to BBC and all of the big pages. A lot of pages stole the stuff, but the ones with credibility, they did ask for permission to repost it. Boys, Frederick, do you have any questions for our guest? I don't mean to keep you waiting.
I do actually. I wanted to know, salary-wise, was it compatible with the salaries they're offering now? Because I don't know anybody doing.
Did you also have to drive Uber?
A very good question. I guess the salary was good for Italy. Could live well on it. Um, I don't quite know how else to answer
What
that.
was
I
the
mean,
number?
I can live,
I'm just joking, obviously.
yeah.
So
No, but
tell
I
me,
could live well, no Uber driving, no additional jobs. I'll just give you some context, I guess, and you can kind of draw your own conclusions.
sure.
I used to live I always lived in the center of Turin. I moved just once when I lived there. Yeah, like right in the center on Via Barbaroux. Those who know it, those who've been to Torino. I had a nice apartment there. It was a one bedroom, but very big, very spacious, and yeah, like my salary could support that. Plus, have some fun on the side.
I think I have a mental picture now of the salary. So
Yeah.
thanks for clearing that up.
What's the
Hey,
password to Juventus social media?
Yeah.
But seriously, once you left the position, they changed everything, or how does that work? The transition of power, so to speak.
Yeah, they typically do. They have like a password reset procedure whenever someone leaves. So yeah, no doubt the passwords, even if I could remember them, they'll be all different now.
So having the blue check, having the obviously connections to how do I explain that? Having the support of the social media giants, how does that work? Can you just text them or contact them? Hey, this person or this hacker is trying to attack us. And have you ever been attacked? Have you ever? Because Lord knows our account has 50 something thousand, and I'm constantly getting um, you know these little attacks from these hackers. Are you well protected, better than private people, private persons?
Well, I know the account got hacked recently. Rumors of Arda Güler joining, which unfortunately were not true.
Oh, that's right, that's
Uh,
right.
but no, during my time, we were fortunate. Like nothing like that ever happened. We did have our own agents we could contact at the various social media channels. So we had people from like Meta, from X, from TikTok that we could speak to and support. I think that's kind of standard practice in like most like high level businesses. I don't know whether we got preferential treatment being Juventus. I imagine possibly people would get back to us a bit sooner. Um, but yeah, like there is certainly like yeah some agency support there.
Which company had the best support that you prefer to deal with?
Um, it's tricky because again, like I said, I wasn't just a one man band, so
Hmm.
we'd have other people deal with the agencies as well. So I don't I don't really have an answer for that one, unfortunately. Sorry
No
to
worries, no
disappoint.
worries. Kevin, if you have any questions, please jump in.
yeah, I'm curious, kind of your perspective on the dynamic between Juventus increasingly trying to become a more global brand and how that balances against, at the end of the day, being a football club in Italy and local fans in Turin, where you lived and experienced a number of years going to matches, I presume. And like during my time there, there's this conflict between, I think, diehard fans who live in the city, who are the ones that go to the stadium, create the environment, and like the whole like La Juve siamo noi, right? Like we are Juventus, the fans, and their conflict with like the club's identity and the things about trying to become more global. And you see a lot of like the social campaigns and stuff with merchandise and t-shirt cannons at the stadium and some of the jersey collaboration stuff they did last year when in the US. The most recent thing with like NASA, which I think the timing of that was a bit odd following the US elections, but it just especially during your time.
I think we had an episode that was called Juve T-shirt Cannon. That was one of the greatest things. That one of the greatest disasters to ever happen. Next to the chair, next to the Juventus chair.
And then I mean Ronaldo being there during your time, right? And obviously like a global sporting icon. So just I'm curious to get your perspective and just like what kind of pressures you faced or what kind of just like mission you had. Was it like purely focused on a global audience, or like how do you balance that with just like the Italian roots and local fans?
Yeah, quite a lot of questions in there. First of all, I guess my thoughts on the whole like marketing process is, first, I'm a big fan of it because I think if you want to grow as a brand, you need to branch out to like more people. I believe like marketing, similar to social as well. I think the more relatable your content is, or more relatable your marketing is, the more people you can reach. So I think that it's right that Juve tries to evolve as a brand, becoming more than just a football club, but also being a relatable lifestyle brand. So I think it's the way to go. But at the same time, I think we can't, or they couldn't, sorry, alienate the diehard locals, as you mentioned, Kevin. They are like the foundation of the club, and I'm a football romantic at heart. I still believe, in the working man's game, and the old traditions, which I guess are kind of dying out right now. I think there is a way that they can both live in harmony, and it is difficult to balance both. I remember on the Juve Instagram page, even reading like lots of comments in Italian, like why are you writing in English? Why aren't you writing more in Italian? I see that less now on the page because I do think fans do understand like the importance of having an international audience and growing as a brand. Obviously, when we signed Cristiano Ronaldo, that elevated us so much. We would see like massive increases in our metrics all across social. And again, I think it helps put Juve on another level. And I think things have changed even in the last few years, even since I've not been there. I think Juve are growing more and more as a brand, as you also mentioned the collab with NASA. Our chief marketing officer, I read an interview of him saying that they stopped looking at the rest of Serie A as their competitors for audience. They instead were looking at WWE, the NBA, and I think from a digital perspective, that's completely the right way to think. And I feel like, based on their performances on social right now, it's paying dividends for them.
Very interesting. We all want to know. Have you ever met Ronaldo?
So met as in have I shaken hands with him? Have I spoken to him? Yes. Met as in have I phoned him up and asked him to go for a beer? Absolutely not. But
with him, you'd have like water. It would be still or with gas. But yeah, it's you had an interaction with him, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I've had interaction with him. Unfortunately, I don't have a selfie with him, but I do have a group photo with him plus a signed jersey. So
nice.
That's always nice to display. But yeah, like it used to be such a pleasure to watch him just even in training. You can see how dedicated he is, and I would generally get excited to go to training just to watch CR7 because he's different class. And I had friends that worked at the training ground, and they would tell me that it's true what people say. He really does stay like after training hours to practice things, and he's a completely dedicated professional. Even on shoots for merchandise, Ronaldo would want to get things perfect. So I think that just speaks to him as a testament as a man. And I really enjoyed having him at Juve, and I was so gutted when he left.
Is it true? They say he's such a down to earth guy. I assume that's true, right? The camaraderie, even with players who are on the lower on the totem pole of Juve, he was personable with and friendly with. Is that correct?
Yeah, from what I saw, he was really personal with the squad. He would talk to everyone. I just remembered something kind of funny that I remember. There was an open training session, and he was walking away with Steffi Mavididi and doing a London impression, like what was he saying? I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but it was like hilarious to hear as a fellow Londoner myself, hearing Ronaldo try and take the piss with like a London accent. So yeah, he would try and joke with the team, but also, I think when he needed to be serious, he could be serious with them, help G them up and motivate them. And look, we all saw what he did in the second leg of that Atletico game, which I
That
think
was my
that
next
stands as
question.
like my favorite memory at the stadium, because yeah, like that night everything was in our favor. Ronaldo was on fire, and like the Curva Sud almost like sucked the ball into the back of the net. We were so loud that night.
You were at the game.
Yeah,
Oh,
incredible,
man.
incredible.
Is that the best game you've been to? I assume, were you was it 2017? Were you in
20,
Cardiff?
2019. Oh,
I
sorry. You asked me about Cardiff.
I I was gonna say, is the Atletico game the best game you've been to? Obviously, well, Cardiff, he didn't even play for us. I'm sorry, that was a brain fart. I apologize. But did you go to the Champions League finals against Barca and against Real Madrid? That was my point.
So I hadn't joined Juventus yet for Cardiff. As a fan, though, I did go to the Barcelona final. I did go to Berlin, paid €1,000 for a ticket.
Oh my god.
Unfortunately, unfortunately didn't get the result that we wanted. Was amazing when Morata scored, though, to be there in that end, and then to believe. And then, of course, we should have probably had a penalty with Paul Pogba, and then Barca got the
Hmm.
other end of the score, and
Yep.
yeah, a heartbreak.
You don't have to remind us.
Yeah, one of the things I really want to see is Juve win the Champions League, because the last time they won it back in '96, I was, I think, 7 years old and just couldn't, experience that memory. So I'm
Hmm.
desperate to see Juve win the Champions League.
Yeah, aren't we all, man? So, going back to the current social media status or social media atmosphere in the world, you guys mentioned the nostalgia and like the style of Juve, the way things used to be. I do believe that there's a fine line of including the old Juve beyond just posting videos of on this day, Del Piero scored this goal, and on this day, this happened, this happened. I feel like Roma does it, especially during the that one season where the Roma admin was just everyone's favorite account. I remember that, right? They were kind of funny, controversial, but I feel like Roma does it in the correct way. They incorporate the old culture with the new culture, but to me, it seems like Kevin mentioned that as well. Juve just went different way, absolutely, with TikToks and dancing. And now I just saw a post where they're throwing something at Coop Miners, and obviously people are going to be upset and mention the fact that, hey, how about you do that in between the sticks? I saw the first comments like, hey, how about you make it into the net for once, because they were throwing something at Coop Miners. Do you feel like there was something in a way, maybe you were trying to bring in that old Juve style where you can kind of modernize Juve's history without completely ignoring it? Was there Were there limitations, or were there something in the way of you trying to post something and there was someone that says no, it's just because I know it can be frustrating when you work for a big company, you're trying to introduce something new, something fresh, and there's as we call him, some dinosaur that sits up top and um, gets in the way of that. Did you experience any of that? And not to, obviously, you don't want to trash your former employees, but was there a little frustration that came with the job?
Well, look, the thing with social media is you can never please everyone. Never please everyone. There are always going to be people that complain or have something to say. No one's ever going to be fully satisfied. Um, if you think back to how things used to be at Juve, I think we were very rigid on social media. We wouldn't, engage. We wouldn't post memes. And now, like as you said, Vahad, it's gone completely the other way on TikTok. I think it's about knowing your platform, knowing your audience. I mean, clearly the strategy is working on TikTok. Juve's amongst the top 10 sports teams in the world. I
Hmm.
think if
I'm
you
not on
want
TikTok,
that
so I
old
wouldn't
school,
know what they do there. I'm on Instagram like an adult.
yeah, same. Um, but I think again, like you wouldn't go for the traditional stuff necessarily on TikTok. You'd more likely go to X or go to Instagram. I
Fair
think
enough.
on Instagram, they have a really good blend. I remember the what was it, the family portrait campaign. When you talk about having a blend between the old school and the new, I think that was a really good example of that Juve did. Um, with regards to the on this day post goal of the day, I think look they're a good simple way to engage, and sometimes look, we needed to throw them out on social, especially when the team had a bad result. They often help like deflect things like that a little bit. I think we did evolve over time in terms of our tone of voice. There were a lot of us that wanted to push the boundaries even more. Um, I can remember coming up with the idea for the Juventus Medical Starter Pack that got delayed by a transfer window because it wasn't like elsewhere in the company. But then eventually we got it out, and even then still faced some criticism. So not only can you not always please fans, you can't please everyone in house either. So I think with social, you just need to be able to trust people. And look, as I grew more into the role, I got more confident. I would take more risks, and I always kind of had that thinking of, if I do something and it doesn't go well, then I can justify why I made that post, why I took that chance. So again, it's just about finding a balance, but you have to remember at the same time you can't please everyone.
How building on that, how much autonomy and flexibility did like you have as Charlie and your teammates have with like your own tone and either the strategy or whatever that you wanted to put out there versus like how much were you a channel of something that was like kind of dictated for you and you're just trying to execute against like a prescribed plan, tone kind of approach?
So yeah, it has been an evolution as well. Like I said, when I first started, posts kind of were like not quite dictated. We would have some autonomy, but there would be things where we would be told this has to go out. I never forget coming out of the shower once on the weekend and seeing a message saying like, we need to congratulate Real Madrid for winning the Super Cup now. So yeah, I had to go and do that.
Boo.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the congratulations FC comments
Did
that I
you
see.
did you enjoy congratulating Inter Milan? Because I remember that post.
So probably worst working memory in a way. I remember, I think we were playing them, right? And they'd arrived at the stadium, and because I think Milan drew Sassuolo or something, they'd been crowned champions, and we had to get the congratulations out, and uh, yeah, did not enjoy that. But again, if the person signing my check says get this tweet out, then
Mhm.
I got to do it. Um, in terms of autonomy, again, like I think slowly, we would get more autonomy. Perhaps again, as I grew more in confidence in the role, I would maybe bend the rules slightly and be a little bit of a maverick. But again, calculated risks, things that I know would resonate with fans that wouldn't be pushing envelope too far. I'm trying to think. Like I remember when we beat Chelsea in the Champions League, I posted straight away after like made it, tonight's result made in Turin, like taking the piss out of the Made in Chelsea reality show, and that did really well. That was off my own back. I didn't ask permission, but again, like
Ooh,
with things,
he's gone
yeah, with
rogue.
things reacted like that, yeah, with things reacted like that, we were kind of more encouraged to ask permission first. But then my feeling is that kind of defeats the whole point of social media, because if you're waiting and waiting and waiting, you lose the moment, you lose the momentum, and
Yeah, it's all about
it just
timing.
doesn't go out. So you know, I think it just has to get a level of trust. And again, I backed myself in that situation. I knew I wasn't going to do anything wrong, and yeah, it went down well.
What was your? Sorry, Frederick. Frederick had to turn. Go ahead, buddy.
Thank you. No, in terms of players, because I can imagine being at Juve for all those years, you've encountered many players and had your dealings with some of them. Were there any players that disappointed you in the sense that they were not as outgoing, forthcoming, or just not as
Maybe somewhat
nice? Just because,
standoffish.
yeah,
So this is the thing, guys, and it speaks to the wider football culture in Italy. Football players there are seen as gods. So when everyone around them thinks that they're gods, they don't want to be dealing with mere mortals. So often the people around the players will put up barriers for you getting too close to them. So I never really had any working relationships with any of the players. Again, that did sort of change a little bit towards the end of my time, and I imagine it's better now. But I couldn't really form many relationships with players, so I can't really tell you one way or the other. I can tell you that probably the player I had the closest thing to having a relationship with was Dusan Vlahovic. I was very heavily involved on the day that he signed for the club. Spoke to him a lot, like in English, when he was there, and yeah, would chat to him occasionally when I was at the training ground. Give him the odd fist bump here or there. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not quite the levels back then. Anyway, it wasn't quite the levels of some other clubs. Like for instance, one of my colleagues at Juve, he had come from Manchester City, and he had, I think, Fernandinho and Raheem Sterling following him on Instagram. So that just goes to show you that the difference there was then. I'm sure now it's different, but back then that's what it was like for me.
Was there any? You mentioned the players that followed Vlahovic on Instagram. Was there any random footballers around the world that followed Juve that you were like, oh my god, this blue check is kind of weird, but we'll take it? Was there a non-Juve players following Juve?
The first one that comes to mind is Mike Grella.
Sorry, who was that?
Mike Grella. He used to play for Leeds United here in the UK.
Oh,
I think he
okay.
played for New York Red Bulls as well. He's a pundit now on CBS Golazo.
Okay.
Yeah, he's with he's with Paramount Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the most random one that comes to mind.
Was who
Oh, maybe Asmir Begovic did as well, actually.
was there camaraderie in between the biggest clubs? Like you had to follow Chelsea, you had to follow I don't know, whoever in England, and it's a big network of large clubs following each other. Was there one that refused to follow Juve?
Last time I checked, we didn't follow like any other teams, to be fair. I think, it's very much like lone wolf mentality, I think, especially in Italy. I know that I think we did try to create some kind of partnership at first with LAFC. That didn't seem to take off, and that's unfortunate because we did go there when we went on the US tour in 2022. That was such a fun experience to see like how LAFC operate, and I would have loved to have seen a further collaboration from that. But unfortunately, we didn't tend to do that. I know in the MLS, clubs tend to work more together to achieve one common goal, but I think in Italy and I think in most of the rest of Europe, even in the UK, it is very much like lone wolf mentality.
It's so funny you mentioned LAFC because when I had the fan club in Los Angeles, um, one of our members, he went on to be the main guy for their Curva Sud. Like he's in charge. He's a
Oh
big
wow.
guy. Like he I met him recently, and he said, "Yeah, the tifo and organization and everything is on me." And I actually mentioned the fact that the hooligans do get into fights, and he's a big guy, roided out, don't want to mess with him type of guy. So he said that if teams challenge us, if the hooligans from other, believe it or not, American teams do have hooligans. I guess so.
I've seen it. I've been in the
It's
32-52 at LA.
I mean, he says it's go time. So we do have you do kind of have a relationship with LAFC. So he learned from Juve and he brought that culture to LAFC. And people make fun of him. There's clips that go viral from American teams, but I do believe that American teams, some of them do have great support. Support sections, and it's kind of fun to go to MLS games as well. But yeah, just wanted to shout out to KC, and he's a he learned a lot from Curva Sud, and he brought that culture to LA.
Well, he's doing a great job. I mean, yeah, when we went to the match, I spent the second half in the 32-52, as I said, drinking a beer and singing
Mm.
along with the fans, and yeah, it was a lovely experience. I really did actually connect with LAFC back then. So as far as I'm concerned, they're my MLS team, and yeah, I hope your pal keeps doing a great job because there's a fantastic atmosphere there.
Yeah, obviously Chiellini went there, and that was kind of the connection there. Boys, any other questions, please?
Maybe just like very fundamental question, like for fans and members of the audience who don't truly understand what goes into a role like this. Like I work at a software company and on like the sales and revenue sides. Like I have an understanding of what our like digital marketing group does and our own social media managers. But like what's the day in the life for what you're doing, especially at a sports club, and like balancing reacting to stuff that happens in real time versus like proactive like campaigns and initiatives you might have. Just what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, super varied. I mean, there's a lot that goes into a football club, as you can imagine. I mean, no day is the same. And obviously, like, you have training in the week, you have matches, so they're all its own thing. Then plus, yeah, you add campaigns into that. I mean, genuinely, if I think back to day in the life, when I'd arrive at the office, I would go straight away to the content calendar we had, see what we had to post that day. Sometimes you might receive an email like there's a campaign or there's a bulletin or there's something to do. Then we would know when training is for that day. So we would rotate going to training, capture footage. Sometimes they would have a tactical training session, which would typically be the day before the game. So absolutely no coverage there. Don't want to give anything away. There'd be attending press conferences at the stadiums. There would be obviously the matches themselves. There'd be so much that go into it. It is really hard to describe a typical day in the life at Juventus.
It's so interesting because you said there was no interaction with other accounts and other teams, but I think it was you who we interacted with back when we were big on Twitter, still are, but it's kind of dying now because I cannot fucking stand that platform anymore. But there was one reply I got from the main Juventus page, which was pretty cool. It was a pleasant experience. I retweeted and I was like, oh my god, I actually got a reply from the Juventus main account. But never again. It was just once, and I think other big accounts that supported Juve, like we did, everyone got at least one little interaction with the main account, but that was it. You guys certainly didn't spoil us with attention. So piggyback on that, were there other accounts that you got either inspiration from, or you just admired that what regular people in regular life were doing to support Juve, having these accounts? Because God knows I spent a lot of time on social media trying to show my love for Juve. And were there accounts that were standouts that you may not have followed, but you kind of did take inspiration from at Juve Podcast?
Well, look,
You noticed this, right?
yeah,
Give me top 3 accounts that you noticed that they were doing a great job, besides just being assholes, because that's what Twitter is all about now.
just Juventus related, yeah.
Yeah, like the Juve dedicated accounts. Who were the standouts for y'all?
Well, all Juve podcasts, of course.
Yes, I certainly didn't fish for that one.
Around Turin.
Excellent. I actually wanted to ask you about him.
And then I would say Juve FC.
Oh, Rob is on our podcast. You missed him, but he's here. That's awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
That's good to know.
I have one more question, if I may. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, because I know for a fact that during press conferences, the questions that get asked by journalists are basically vetted or checked in advance. Because if you dare to ask a question that's not premeditated or approved by the communication board, then you're on a blacklist. sort of thing as a journalist. I was wondering, did they apply the same for social media? As in, they give you some leverage, they give you a bit of wiggle room to create your own content, so to speak. But do they also say like, okay, this happened, we're not gonna address that in any way, shape, or form through social media because it will harm us? Kind of an embargo thing, if you will.
So again, I think it goes back to the evolution of social at the club again being quite restrictive and then being let a little bit further loose or trusted more. Um, I can remember that unfortunately, like elsewhere in the club had taken the stance that they didn't want us to comment on deaths that weren't related to Juve. So, for example, I can remember when Kobe Bryant passed. All of us in marketing wanted to say something, but our hands
R.I.P.
were tied
Kobe.
and we
Yeah, we
couldn't.
remember that. People were
Yeah,
mad that you guys didn't comment on that.
yeah, and just to kind of clear that one up, it was not the social team. Like everyone wanted to post, but we couldn't. And yeah, I think now that things have changed, I think if that was to happen again, completely 100%, we would say something. And I haven't been checking the accounts staunchly since I have left, but I'm sure we have um, when people or ex-players or whoever have passed, and it's been significant. So that's one thing. It's interesting you bring up press conferences as well because I had an idea that unfortunately didn't get realized, but I wanted to do a fan question of the week that we could ask the coach, get it recorded. And again, I think that would have been a cool idea to promote interaction, get
Hmm.
fans feeling more involved. Also, Allegri speaks some English, Sarri spoke English, so we could have even made it a bit more international and had that just one question replied to in English. But unfortunately, that idea didn't get off the ground. But again, I think just answering the original question, yeah, like it changed over time from what we can and can't say.
Very interesting. Did Sari smoke around the facilities?
um, I can remember getting off the plane in Moscow. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here, and seeing
Mhm.
him light up straight away as soon as we got out. Plus one player who I will not comment on who.
Oh, really? Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
interesting. See, that's what we're looking for over here, man. Spill it. I know, I know. Chesney was caught smoking, right? Like, there's pictures of him smoking. I absolutely love. Like, I like to light up every once in a while when you have a drink. Buffon was caught smoking, right? Was that him?
I could not confirm with an eye which player it was.
Yes. Hey, man, he's a goalkeeper. Let him smoke. Um,
You
uh,
know the sorry to interrupt, but it just
please.
brings to mind the one of the most famous ex Juve players that also smoked was Zidane.
Hmm.
I
I get
actually
it, man.
Look at
It's a
that.
stressful job. I get it.
I actually saw him smoking when I went to visit. I was a little kid.
Hmm.
I had to kick around with him and some other players, and it was during the end of training. We didn't have the luxury that we have now of La Continassa and things like that, so it was very primordial, so to speak. But they came out after they took a shower and had their physiotherapy and whatever, and he just light up, and
Oh
I
my
was
God!
like,
Imagine if you got a picture of that. That'd be on a
yeah,
T-shirt in a
it was
second.
pre smartphone era, so
I love it so much. So we've had Charlie's feet to the fire for long enough. We want to thank you. Uh, Please, you're not done. We will discuss a little Juve business. I know. And if you guys come up with questions for Charlie, please chime in. But I did want to give Frederick the floor because he said he did have some rumors and transfer because he is our bold Fabrizio Romano. So please let us know what you've heard. What's going on around transfer?
well, basically a bit of a confirmation of the news that I spoke about during the last podcast that I was in. That was regarding the possible transfer of Vlahovic. Basically all but confirmed. He's a bit unhappy and deal that they proposed him with the salary cut and well, basically a new deal was basically off the table straight away.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a bit of a tense moment between Vlahovic and Juventus, and chances that of him leaving are very, 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 very real and very
Wow.
imminent. But of course, if we do sell Vlahovic, we need a replacement ASAP, because I wouldn't rule out Vlahovic leaving already in January. There's been some rumors.
Wow.
My source asked me not to talk about the teams that have been in contact, so I
Sure.
won't. Arsenal, but
I mean, they were after him, and it's not
I mean,
that a controversial.
no,
But
it's a bit of a logical step, and some other teams which he didn't mention, so I can't comment on that.
mhm.
But the latest rumor is that should he or would he be leaving in January, that we would go for Victor Osimhen.
Ooh, love that. Interesting.
I'll take that with a pinch of salt because that's something that I heard through various channels. I texted my source about that, but he's been ghosting me ever since. So I don't know if that's something to take into account, but it
hmm
is a probability of Vlahovic leaving. And Silva will be our main target as a center back for January.
hmm
Um,
I mean,
also,
that is the position that needs desperate attention during the January transfer window, right?
yes, yes, yes. And that's not the only thing. I think they're focusing on a Conceição move. Conceição will be a official Juventus full-fledged player before.
Chico is
Yeah,
coming. 30 million, right?
yeah, 30
So worth
million.
it.
I think it's 27 and add-ons, but it'll be around 30 million-ish
Yeah.
euros. So he'll be one of the first official signings, and I'm thinking that Antonio Silva and other players that they'll bring in will have the same formula, with a loan with the option to buy, with the eventual buy option or the amount of the buy option being increased. Hanko, we need to keep an eye out. Hanko from Feyenoord, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm
Brugema from PSV Eindhoven is also on the short list. And like I said, Dorgu from Lecce. And yeah, the striker, there are a lot of names on the table, but they're looking to see what happens with Vlahovic. Juntali is not a fan of attracting an extra center forward at this time. He's confident that Milik will return in form and that they can still make the contribution for Juventus. And he'd rather wait to see what happens with Vlahovic. Because if Vlahovic leaves, then we'll need two strikers ASAP, which
hmm
means that you don't have any leverage because every club will know that you're after a striker, meaning that you can't negotiate the price. And that's not a position that's Juntali comfortable in. So he prefers on waiting it out and seeing what can happen and how everything unfolds, especially with the summer transfer window being shortened. So yeah, it's gonna be a hectic January, I think. Not in terms of signing. I don't think we'll sign 10 to 12 players or anything like that. But there are a lot of names on the table, a lot of short lists, and well, another positive thing is we have money now because our balance says that we're in a deficit of 200 million, which is not true because if we incorporate the earnings of this season, it would be around a loss of 70 million euros, which is not good, but it's not dramatic either. And if we calculate the earnings that we get from Champions League, hopefully if we progress, and the World Cup for teams, then we could see some money coming in that we could be able to spend in a transfer window, and I think it'll be necessary. And then last bombshell, Fajoli's out. He's
Ah,
out of the grace
Just
of
gonna ask if you feel that there's truth to that.
yeah. There's a lot of truth in that, also because it's fueled not just by speculation, but Fajoli's mental issues. He has some mental issues. It coincides with his addiction that he had. So he's going through a rough time, but he doesn't seem to be able to shake it off. I know for a fact that some people within the club have asked him to limit his communication with other people in his environment, his entourage, which he didn't do. So that's a bit of a negative impact.
No, God!
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
The club
What
most
about that one?
the club most interesting to pick him up or there have been conversation with is West Ham. I don't know any details. I just know that West Ham they had some talks going on. So I don't know how that'll unfold, but I know that it's the end of his story at Juve pretty soon. So
What a shame. Well, this has been Frederick Romano. Thank you, buddy. Kevin, any last words? I know we got a game tomorrow. I don't think we'll have time to touch on that, but going to Bologna.
Just
big game.
Thiago Malta's return, his former club.
Not going to Bologna. We're playing at home. I apologize.
We're at home. It's just since my son has been born, we've had 3 ties. There are 3 draws. So my little guy's a curse here. We need to return to winning ways. That's all I'll say. And Charlie, it's just been a pleasure. Thanks for giving us your time and entertaining our questions.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, Charlie. Please stay in touch with us. Thank you, everyone. This has been a really interesting episode. I appreciate you, giving us some insight and. Yeah, we are hoping to record the post Bologna episode. Please join us then. Subscribe on all podcasting platforms. I think there's very much to say except let's go out and listen to our favorite song. Boys and girls, stay hydrated. Always check on your friends and Forza Juve.
I was caught in the middle of a railroad track. Moved around and I knew there was no turning back. My mind raced and I thought, what could I do? And I knew there was no help from you. Sound of the drums beating my heart. The thunder of guns tore me apart. You've been thunderstruck. Went down the highway, broke the limits, we hit the town. Went through the Texas, and we had some fun. We met some girls, some dancers who gave a good time. Broke all the rules, played all the fools. They
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Hey, you